See if you can spot the flour sack animation on Bambi in this.
Did you catch it?
It's right here. Could you do this? Can you bring a flour sack to life? It's a classic test, one that some of the best animators in the world had to pass, like old legends at Disney. Now, a lot of student animators haven't even done it before. Today, let's find out what you can do with a flour sack jump in day 5 of the 28-day animation challenge. So why are we animating a flour sack instead of a avatar jump or a kung fu move?
Yeah.
It's allowing us to animate human-like movements with a much more simple character. It's really easing us into the harder animations that are just around the corner. And it leaves no room to hide. There's no cool-looking rig, smear frame, prop, or moving camera to just cover up our shortcomings, right? With the flour sack, all our animation skills are put on display front and center. How well do we know the principles? How much do we absorb the challenges that came before this? Either this is gonna look good, either this is gonna look entertaining even, if we're lucky, or it's not. So let's jump in. All right, so let's make a game plan for this flour sack jump. I'm in Sync Sketch here to do some 2D planning, just kind of 2D rough animating, thumbnailing, that kind of thing all together. So we're gonna have a flour sack kind of hop over. I'm just gonna go ahead and start doing my best here to rough out drawing a flour sack. I've never actually drawn a flour sack, so this will be interesting. The little feet there. I'm gonna try to draw it kind of like an angle, so it's kind of rotated like this. I'm gonna start him kind of more alert, more upright, so that's why I'm kind of going with this kind of posture where he's a little bit more stretched here. And get these like tassels on the ends, and then I'm gonna want to hold that so we can see this for several frames. So it'll be important to have the 2 keys to hold this. I'm gonna have it maybe just slightly easing out to get ready to come down. Yeah, to get ready to come down to get his anticipation for the jump. So we got like a 5 frame hold here, really rough. And then he's gonna come down. How many frames gonna need? Go with, let's go with 3. And I'm going to then squash him and kind of curl him over here. Probably something along these lines. Really kind of crunching on this end. And he's got his feet still there. There's those tassels, and you can have maybe these come forward. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with them just yet. We could have them back, almost like he's like they're still catching up. We'll see. Kind of thinking about them like arms, and also like a way to kind of show where the character's looking. And then we're gonna need to take off here. So we're gonna need a stretch. I'm gonna, this foot being furthest back, that'll come up first. We're gonna go with a stretch here. Probably pretty big. Peeling off the ground. This foot will be the last to come off since it's further forward. And maybe this part is already kind of up. And these tassels are probably dragging behind these ends of the flour sacks. I don't even know if tassel is the correct verbiage. So stretch, alert, squash, stretch, and then I'll give, say, 4 frames to get to the top of the jump. And we're gonna go ahead, just for some extra shape change, we're gonna go ahead and do another squash here at the top, giving us this kind of curvature here. And I'm gonna go ahead and flop the tassels forward. That could all change. Now this leg coming up first is probably gonna twist first, so I'm imagining that that'll be maybe like halfway forward, as this is maybe this leg is still back and kind of twisting. Whoops, drawn that on the wrong frame. And then there's a tassel foot here. Delete that. Right, so now hopefully you can start to kind of envision what's happening there. We're, going back to what we know about a bouncing ball, where we want to get up into the air quickly, and we want to have the shape change, and we're applying what we've learned about the overlap from the ball and tail animation, that squirrel animation challenge that we did. And then on the way down, I'm going to have another stretch. It's going to be this leading leg that's going to reach down first. Maybe for silhouette, I can put the foot out here, kind of tassels dragging back, and then it's kind of like a heel and toe. And maybe I can do something like this. I'm trying to go for that angle because he's kind of jumping up, and then, he's rotating a little bit as he does so, right? And then something like that. Maybe this is supposed to be a little further down to reach. And then a couple frames to come down again into that squash. And the foot will flatten out. And we're gonna try to make him pretty pudgy here. And we'll have that other foot come down, and it'll probably be overlapping maybe a bit compared to the other one. We'll get there at the same time, and then here we'll have eventually we're gonna have these ears of his, these tassels, these arms, whatever they are. They're gonna flop forward. And then, so he's landed, we've got the impact, we've got the stretch and squash, just like we would on a ball. And then he's gonna stand up, or not stand up, he's just gonna look like he's more alert, right? He's gonna recover from that impact. But he's gonna still stay in the same space. He's not gonna take a step or anything. And I don't want him to go into like a full stretch. We could have him kind of stretch, squash, stretch as an overshoot, and then come into a settled position. But I think we can just kind of go into like a slight relaxation of that squash, a slight lift here. And maybe we'll push it a little bit, see how it feels when we get into Maya. Right. And then here, I'm just gonna try to make him look alert. Kind of looks like he's looking this way now. See how that feels. And then we'll need a few frames to hold that. I think I gotta kind of draw my line more like so to help with the direction. A little more slanted maybe. So we're just gonna have a bit of a moving hold here. Pixels moving is all we're gonna need inside of Maya to sell that and for us to really read it. We'll need the tassels to move a little bit more than everything else. They're lighter, they're taking longer to get there. Yeah. Boing. Yeah, even though that's very minimal drawing, we don't have a lot of in-betweens in there. I think you can still read it, and hopefully that makes sense. I think naturally my drawings kind of got a little smaller, right? You started off a lot bigger. But I think that's giving us a little bit of depth, making it feel like you jumped a little bit away from camera. Anyway, I'm not a 2D animator, but this is continues to be a very helpful way to plan, right? You could shoot reference of yourself jumping. You'll have to interpret what you could take away from that to apply it to a flour sack, because obviously we're not flour sacks. So that's kind of what's handy about doing it 2D animation style here, is you're getting to think about the shape of the flour sack, the limbs that you have to work with, right? These are your limbs. Basically getting a sense that, trying to give a sense that there are arms, legs, there's a chest, there's a hip, but there is none on this character. And that's what we're setting up here with this jump, and really just building off everything that we've practiced already in the other challenges. So with this, I think we're good to bring it into Maya with this rough timing and expand from there. All right, so we got our planning thumbnails in here. We're gonna start our blocking, and that's gonna be posing this thing out based directly off of those thumbnails that we did. I'm just gonna go ahead and start posing him to kind of match what we got. Pretty new to this rig, so we might be fiddling around with some of the controllers to get the shapes and get things moving with the right pivot points. But we'll get there. So here I'm just kind of posing to match that reference. We'll probably elongate him out a bit. I'm keeping the main global kind of at default position, so I can just go straight ahead with it on one axis, and it won't mess up these controllers either, but we can still get that twist. So we can take time here to shape these as well. Just go full screen here. Okay. So that's our first pose. I'm gonna select everything and just key that. Our timing wasn't saved from the reference for Sync Sketch. I think I forgot to get some of the extra frames there. So I'm just gonna pose out the character based off the key poses we have here on every single frame, and then I'll retime it. I'm gonna move this reference too, because it's kind of difficult for me to see the poses. There we go. And then boom. And then we can get back to doing our thing. So I copied frame 1 to frame 2 here. And then we're gonna do our squash, curl. Try not to forget to rotate this one. The darkened shading that's in there, I think, is just coming from this rig. Might just be a setting, not exactly sure, not having used it before. adding a tiny bit of movement here. I should go ahead and have this in there as well, and maybe kind of pull it more down to kind of stretch it more. That way we got some change in there. Okay. And then can go ahead and curl these as well. Just kind of do them rough. That's that, and then let's go to the next pose, start working on this awesome takeoff. And here's kind of the different thing compared to maybe other rigs that you're used to is the way this is set up, we're having to use this global thing to hop him around. We could just pull this up and then, you know, move all the other controllers and leave that there, but I think it'll work out faster just to do the global to work out the ball bounce part first. I think this will be a one frame change to kind of pop up to here. So let's work on the ball bounce arc side of things. And back down. Say 0. And if we look at the graph editor here, just see how our speed is progressing. So we want the speed going translate Z to be fairly consistent across the jump. We could like slow down a little towards the end, but basically I want this to be linear right now and I can fiddle with it later. Just so our speed doesn't, like he doesn't slow down in the middle of his jump or he doesn't get faster. And one thing I forgot to do is just in my preferences to swap back and make sure we're starting here with flat and stepped curves. I'm gonna grab this, step it out. Boom. Now he's jumping a pretty fair distance. That might be a little bit too much at the end, so I think I am gonna slow him down more right there. And then in terms of the height, we might bump this up even more. We'll see. We'll see what the when we get our other keys in there, our in-betweens and stuff, how that feels. Okay, so there is going to be our squash pose again, and then here, so basically 7 is going to be the same as just 3 for now, and 5 is almost the same. I'm going to tweak this though. Could have on frame 3 a little bit more twisted this way to kind of counter. And then here, I think we'll have this twisting forward to bring this back leg forward, which is going to be our leading leg to plant. And then this one will come back. So the idea here is that we're thinking 3-dimensionally, we're twisting the character. This makes it a bit more complicated, but it'll feel more organic in the end, is the idea. And here I probably have this stuff dragging. Just kind of rough for the moment. It might look a little too much like legs, so we might change that. But anyway, that's the start of our posing there. And here for the stretches now, we got a little bit more work to do. I'm gonna move it so this leg is basically try and get the silhouette in there. Could translate that stuff out. It's not very long at the moment, so. Okay. So in order to get these shapes, we have to translate and rotate these controllers, which, you know, may be something you're not used to doing so far with most of the rigs that you've used in the past. And then I'm gonna bring this leg around and kind of bring it up here. Just, you know, the main thing I want to keep is that angle. Make sure we got that stretch as well. Almost blocked. And then here on the takeoff, this leg is going to come up pretty quickly. So we're probably going to have another frame in there where we do get to see a straight stretch in there. Maybe I'll have this down a little bit longer. And then here, I want the hip to start to twist, but the lower half of the bag is going to kind of stay behind longer than the top half as this stretches. And get that twist on the chest there. Make sure I'm leaning him forward. I don't really want him to feel like he's leaning forward, then starting to lean back, almost kind of like straight, and then really leaning back here. The idea. So we get some nice curve reversals. And then I imagine this will be dragging down. I'm not the biggest fan of the way those shapes are. It'd be nice to see the tassel there. Okay. Seems like that's gonna flow. And then make sure I got keys on this stuff. I'm just gonna restamp keys on everything across those frames. And then we're gonna pop them up for this ending here. So let's go to the most extreme one here. Pop him up. Maybe he's not like quite stretched, but you know, more normal volume. And let's rotate him so he's got that lean there. I'll rotate this as well and kind of pull that down. So he's upright. He's not slumped over by the end of our shot. He's awake. He stood up. It's kind of the feeling we're giving. You could even say he's like looking off in this direction here. Twisting this to be kind of reaching for that leg. wondering how that depth feels here. Let's go see this in perspective. It's all right, I suppose. Yeah, he seems balanced. Just looking at kind of like how much he's leaning back, seems fairly balanced looking. Boom. Just this angle seems like maybe too much. Just this camera angle, which is just a left view that we've made sure our posing looks 3/4 to. Boom. Okay, so he hits that position and he's upright. Let me go ahead and key everything there. And then on this frame, I'm gonna really use Tween Machine to really favor that, get there quickly. And then we'll grab these guys. Making sure there's a bit more change there. Yeah, I want to see the most change happening in these like ends of the flower sack here. These like tassel like things. Probably get this a little bit closer so the moving hold is really just pixels moving. Okay, so now we have the bare bones of what we need and the major key poses, and now we're just gonna retime this stuff. So I'm gonna basically separate these to have a frame in between them all, and then I'm gonna use a hotkey just to add or subtract some frames in between them. We can quickly retime this to be like our plan. So here, I know this opening hold needs more time. I'm going to, add a couple of frames there. So just have a hotkey. I go in between the keyframes and then I just it slides everything down for me. So that gives us 4 frames or so there. And then for our squash, probably say 3 frames and then 2 frames there. And then we're gonna give ourselves extra time for the hang time. It might be too much. Boom, come down fast. 2 frames to get that stretch. That was one thing I wanted to adjust here, was like having the stretch back still on the ground through this one leg. Okay, and then you can pull a frame from this. Landing is 2 frames there and then pops up. Yeah, we had, I think, was it 3 frames? So 1, 2, 3, boom, boom, we're there, and then we're gonna need extra frames here to hold that towards 30. Much better. From here, I think our blocking is pretty good. We'll go further into blocking plus and just detail this out more with more of the in-betweens. And just keep taking it all the way to the end with trying to maintain his energy, his excitedness. All right, for the blocking plus, we're going to be cleaning this up further. I have feeling maybe he's kicking a little. It feels like he might be kicking a little too much rather than just jumping. So we may tone this pose down specifically because it's getting a bit busy to have that, and then this flips. So we'll probably tweak that. Maybe I'll save that for refining and auto tangent, but what I'm going to start with here is just the ball bounce itself and trying to get some weight in there. We left a fair bit of time for the top of the arc, and I'm going to just go here on frame 12 and really favor this position here on 14, and do the same thing on 16. So the high point is really favored for weight. What we want to do here with the translate Z, what I should have done on here is just make that even so that speed is fairly consistent. There. And then let's go ahead and we'll go to the pose here and relax this idea, this twisting bit. Just kind of calm this whole thing down some. I'm probably going to bring this up and forward because I don't want this pose to have that much lag in this leg here. And then let's go to these poses here, and our main cog here, our global mover, has moved things where it needs to be, but the shape of the body hasn't changed, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and just do a straight in between here to kind of pull him up. Let me go ahead and really favor again, actually the pose 14 here on 12. And then we're going to bring this up faster. And I want this high point closer, I think. I want this high point closer to the highest point here. I've just hid the textures too, just to kind of see things a little bit easier. So now we've got these legs kind of popping up into this high point faster. I'm gonna probably roll this back. This is something we can really play around with later in refining, I think. And then here, I'm just gonna make sure I'm easing out. And with this, that got us kind of part of the way where we wanted to be. I'm just gonna incorporate more of that lean here. hitting pretty hard there. I think it's just a big pop. We'll probably have a key on every frame on 19 to help sort that out. Maybe we'll give it a couple more frames there if we need to. Overall, I want this top controller, to really favor that high spot and really drag coming down. Make sure our arc is good with all these controllers since we're translating them. They're all arcing. Oops. Okay, so let's play around with this one here. Since we're getting a fair pop there, I'm gonna favor this up more. And then I'm just gonna bring this forward. And if you're thinking more about shape than really where the controllers are going, I think it's gonna work out better for you in terms of figuring out this overlap. And with this, we're softening that impact a bit, giving that a bit more time to come down and not pop. Don't want much of a slide there, so I'm just kind of pushing this back. I'm trying to make this foot kind of land there first and kind of hit that, hold that pivot point. And then here, I'm just gonna slide all this back. Do this in the graph editor really quickly, but I'll just do this for this little one. And then I think with this ending here, you want to have a little bit more weight back. The curve is nice, it just feels like it's a little too much. Probably too much. Boing. Kaboing, right? This definitely would. Just want to place this before I forget about it. This would definitely finish sooner. And when we have this moving through the in-betweens with that moving hold, it won't be stiff for the rest of the body right there on 25. And that way, everything kind of finishes and it's not taking from 23 to 20 to 30, just flopping around a lot. We don't want it to be too distracting and feel too isolated from the rest of the flower sack. Boom, boom, boom. Good stuff. Might give everything just another frame here. Let's see how that plays out in autotangent. Gonna try to twist, bring it down closer. Not have it at its lowest point. I'll probably save that for here. And I want it kind of coming forward here. So it really feels like it's the upper body, the upper part of the flower sac that's pushing that jump. And similarly here, we're gonna make sure we don't forget the lower body. Creating a little bit of translation here. Now I want that squash to intensify into 9, and 7's just like really close to it. Really favor 21 here. Just to make it easy to add the breakdown, I'm gonna just give us another frame here, I think. This is coming up. Boom. So with that should take care of our blocking plus. We've got a lot of added definition here. We've sorted out a lot of even the detail things with the tassels, and we'll see what we got with autotangent. Any gaps we're missing, maybe things that are too poppy with their timing and spacing or shape change, or areas where we're not doing it enough, and take it from there. And hey, by the way, if you're having a blast with this flower sack jump, you're learning a lot, and you're very serious about becoming a professional animator that works in movies or games for a living, you should consider unlocking Pro Mode if you haven't already. You're gonna get harder animation challenges that build off the ones you're already doing here, so you can become a pro much faster. But it's only available to the animators who've unlocked it. It's free to do so though, so there's no real excuses for you. Just go to unlockpromode.com and you can check out some of the cool animations that have just been done recently by animators in Pro Mode here. With refining, let's change our preferences over to auto tangent. Select all of our curves. Auto tangent that stuff. Yeah, so like we were feeling in the Blocking Plus, I think overall it's pretty good. The ending is a little bit flat for me. It just feels like it is a bit stiff, lacking some energy compared to the rest of the jump. We lost the sense of like there being a kick from the flour sack midair, which is nice. It feels more like a hop. Still, and I think we have a fair amount of weight in there, but let's go and clean this stuff up. Maybe one thing that we should do instead, right, we kind of lost track of this, was this global control. Here it's like pushing things down, and then no, what I mean is the global control being up is pushing this lower than it is here in relation to the global. So I'm going to just I'm just going to take a step back here, copy 21 to 22, so it's the same pose, and then kind of rebuild in that overlap on this pose, and I might do it for the same on the other side for the takeoff. And then let's have that leg kind of land in the same spot there. Let's see this takeoff here. Let's do the same thing. I'll just copy 9 to 10 so it's kind of stuck there. And then let's really have the head lead this, kind of driving this motion up. And I don't want to have things happen too fast there. Maybe I can push this further. Let's take a look at the graph editor. Okay, that controller's pretty good. Might just be pushing this. I want this to have somewhere to go through here. So just give it a little bit more movement there on that top control here. And I'm just gonna look at the non-textured version, that darkening. I'm not gonna mess with that right now and figure out what's going on with that. Would rather just see our character a bit easier there. We got that poppiness at the end, but I think with what we want to do to fix it, it'll resolve itself. The changes we want to make will resolve that pop. And here, this silhouette's kind of broken, and then it comes kind of back. I'm gonna, like, we could have it come out here, but yeah, I'm trying to keep it like for this pose, trying to have that silhouette show. So I'm gonna hold this guy back a bit and go for that. Do want that leg to come up pretty quickly, so That's fine. I'm going to delay the other one. Don't want that weird rotation that was going on there. It was like probably a gimbal, but I just keyframed it really fast. Boom. Now those arcs are working. There's too much of a shimmy here with the rotation of the lower part, so I'm gonna turn that down. I'm just using the crosshairs of the rotation as a guide. Now I think we're ready to play around with this ending bit. So we kind of want to add some bounce in there. This section's like not doing us any favor in terms of overlap and just that squash stretch recoil. I like this ending pose, but you know, we could really use, I think, with that overshoot of having this be the overshoot, this like stretch, and then it probably bends forward a little. So what I'm gonna do is, it's one of those times where you kind of have to change your plan. So I'm gonna delete this stuff here in the middle. I'm gonna save this pose for now. And I'm just gonna copy this down a couple times. And then I'm gonna work out a ball bounce kind of here in terms of it going up and down. Maybe I can copy this to say frame 27, 29. And then we can add, he's not as high up, but still pretty high up. But he leans kind of forward here, just to give us a change of angle, change of shape, without having him go super squashed down. That way he's still kind of like up and alert. I think we can play around with the rotations as well to get some like twisting going on. Okay, so what I'm thinking here is we can have the character squashed down even more from 21 to 23. This is probably like the lowest point. And then it starts to come back up again, the character. And then I think the whole time he's gonna be coming forward. He's got like this momentum here. He's coming forward. And so he'll probably be further forward on 25 than he is on 23. And then he's gonna be coming up and back. I wanna give this a little bit of time to come up. Not worried about the tassels for now. Let's see what we got here. Okay, so we've got some weight here, which is nice. Rotation's probably back a little still. Rotation's a little bit more there. He's gonna go higher up there. A little bit lower there. Then I might have another key right here to just gonna round that arc out. I want it to be nice and weighty, so I really want to favor that spot up here. I might kind of hold this down more too. Yeah, I think that already is feeling better in terms of like just making him a little bit more springy recoil, right? One thing we can do is we can play around with the arc on this. Yeah, you can see it's a bit of a mess. And then I think at this end, let me go here in perspective. And here at the end, we're just gonna bring it forward. You know, if this was more of an acting shot, we could think more about the attitude and we could have spent more time in the planning process to work out other ideas about how, you know, how he might show his energy, how things might settle, what his real attitude is at this point of the shot. But this is more mechanical at this point, just kind of building off of everything we've already practiced and learned. Right. So he's got the springiness at the end. We could really, like I said, come up with 1,000 different ways to like how he could finish this landing and what attitude he might show. But we're trying to keep it simple with just keeping it mechanics at the moment. Boom. So I think that's pretty cool in terms of the bounciness compared to what we had before. It'd be nice to add a little bit of twist. I'm gonna go ahead though and add some bounce to some little change here on the bottom control, so that's not stiff and kind of stuck in the spot. I kind of want to have this rotation there because I like the shape it gives me for the end. And then maybe for here we can bring it over. So I'm just kind of imagining that this is a hip and this is a leg here, and as the weight shift comes over, this kind of tilts, that hip tilts more up on that leg that's holding the weight. Using that as a guide at the moment. And let's get that up down stuff worked out really quickly in the graph editor. So lowest point, ease out, pop up. rotate Y. Trying to get that to increase at the right moment when the weight drops on it. And then of course our translate Z here is all out of whack. Maybe we can start bringing that over like the upper control just to give it an arc so it doesn't hit a wall somewhere. We could have it kind of overlap from the other control if we wanted. But I think this will work out all right. Check out this rotation here. So it really quickly goes from bending back to bending forward. And then comes back again. Kind of gets stuck here. I think we want to have him come forward more. There, I think that feels a little bit better, just in terms of the rotation on that upper control. It doesn't feel quite as stiff. Loosen him up. He feels pretty limber, pretty eager to be jumping, having a great time. So kind of fun stuff there. Feels alive. That's what we want. Maybe here, let's see, update that curve. Push that stretch a little bit more. Boom. Shoots up there and settles. Boom. And then I think that's a good spot for refining, and now we'll go clean up the details and polish. All right, so for polish, we're going to clean up a lot of these details, as I said, mainly with the tassels, some like foot slide, a lot of overlap stuff, and then first thing I'm going to start with here is this global control. There's a little bit of slippage here happening, and I don't really need it on the global there. So I'm going to go in and get rid of that. Move right here. I could even just go in and get rid of most of these keys, in fact. And this should probably, I don't think at this point we're gonna mess with that. We should have a little bit of, that's one frame, so it's fine. We should have had it slowed down a little in the landing there, but not a big deal because, you know, we're translating this to be in the right position. All right, so now with that pinned down, let's play around with this foot here. Maybe we could have it kind of and then it sinks down. And then we could have maybe like a little bit of movement. This is some minor stuff, but you know, these are just fun things to play
to make this feel a bit, just a little bit better, right? These are the things that you want to practice with easier animations, so that when you're doing harder ones, you know, you can breathe all the life into it that you can, and, you know, blow people away. Maybe you get to the job because this is done a real piece, right? And these are the skills that hopefully you're having fun with as well as an animator. This is the stuff that you should just have a blast getting in, like all those little details. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete these frames for here. A moment. There's that shift on this controller. I got the right one, I think. Oh, it's supposed to be translate Y. Here, very small movement. Anyway, that's now in place. All that for that little wiggle there. But anyway, the point of what I started with here was to have a little bit of like a foot slide. Maybe we'll bring that foot over as the body weight kind of shifts off of it. And then we'll bring it back out for the body to land on it. Let's see, translate Z. And I think we can create like a little bit of movement here. Try to get that foot there a little bit quicker than the body weight does. You see it kind of slides over into place, almost like it's a step before the body weight kind of does. Super rough, little detail, but you know, it keeps the foot from being kind of stuck there. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's something we would scrap, or maybe you like it. Just things to play around with to keep pushing your skills and in terms of body mechanics and keeping your character alive. Just having fun. This little stuff. For the more noticeable things that we definitely want to fix. I really want to clean up the overlap on this guy. It just gets really messy. Just going to take what we learned from the ball and tail here. And we're going to play around with a lot of those CNS shapes roughly. And I'm going to have this kind of flop forward. Zero that out. It's getting kind of crazy. Probably be up here, and then by this point it would flop, and then by this point it's really dragging. These are things we could translate too. this wouldn't happen here. And this would be delayed. It would come down into this position and then it would go a little further. Yeah, make sure we remember the the main shoulder controller there. We can use that to get some extra drag in this. Maybe here I'll even keep that back. Of course, you know, you could just ignore all this, just focus on the main body of the character. These aren't like details where you really have to beat yourself up, but you know, it does complete the shot to have everything kind of dragging correctly instead of being stiff. And here, gotta make sure we can keep this up and dragging. And you can play around with it like this to have like extra drag if you want, to just break it up from the main body. I think it adds a little something to his energy and the believability of this flower sack jump to have this in here. So I'm just following the motion here. Based off what we learned with the ball and tail. And adding that, watching that arc, adding that drag to the motion so that it's behind the main body there. And then here it's just coming up way too quickly. Like you see, it's like ahead of the body. So I'm gonna grab all that. Let me zero it out again. Just kind of clean that shape up really quickly. You know, you can grab them all one by one if we were gonna be really meticulous to make this the best flower sack animation ever. But I'm just kind of roughing in the whole movement by grabbing all the controllers here at once. I like that it springs back up here. I think that could have a nice bounce. Maybe it just gets there a little bit sooner. Floppy, right? Now there's a lot more drag and flexibility to that. Here is still a bit messy. I think it's just coming up a bit too quick. We're trying to do maybe a little too much with it. You gotta come over there. Silhouette could be better on that frame, so maybe we would change that one. So there we've got some overlap that's cleaned up at the top of the arc as well. It's a little kind of wavy. You know, I could potentially get rid of this move where it kind of bends down there and then comes back up, but I think it's good enough for now. right? No need to kill ourselves over it. Now what I'm going to do with this is just copy this over, I think, to this controller. Now that's mirrored over, I'll just make some quick adjustments to that. That's just coming up too quick there. That is too quick. Lean that back. Now the mirroring made it feel very similar to the other controller, to where they're almost identical in their like drag. So going kind of cleaning some of this up is helpful. To break it up from the other controller. Here, I think we gotta have more drag. And I'm just for fun gonna play around with some translation here. Just a little bit. Yeah, it kind of looks ugly there. That's got a little extra drag. I don't think we noticed too much that stretch on that tassel, right? So you can do that more places if you know, you can keep the shape clean. That's probably the hardest part, is keeping the shape clean, trying to keep it appealing, keeping that arc in there. You know, if we're gonna do that, you'd want to go back here and make sure the spacing's making sense with it. Here we could rotate that a little bit further. And then that's just coming up too quick. Those translations are messing with us a bit. And then here. Yeah. So we got that kind of whipping around, giving it a little extra life in there. And what I was going to suggest too is maybe, you know, we should have done this before the tassels, but you could really play around with, just as a final note with this, you could really play around with the twist to have a little bit more going on with the body of the character. We've got some of that in there. We could really exaggerate it though. especially with the end. You know, we could really have his landing where he kind of goes away more, and then comes back. But that'll screw up that tassel overlap that we put in there. So I'll just leave that where it is, and call it good enough. So hopefully you had fun with this flower sack animation. You know, it's really building off everything that you've learned so far in the challenge with the vertical ball bounce, the ball and tail, obviously with those little overlappy bits here, the tassels at the end, the sense of squash and stretch though, and we've made it, I think, this flower sack feel like a human jumping in a lot of ways without actually having a complex rig. We're just using these animation principles and pushing everything we have to kind of sell that idea that this is human-like, that this flower sack can jump. And that's really huge for your animation skills. You have nothing to hide behind with the flower sack. There's no fancy smear frame multiples. There's not 25 spine controls, right? We don't have a big camera move. So there's nothing to hide behind. This is just all the fundamentals that you're pushing and pulling to the max here to breathe life into a very basic object. And that's the start of character animation, proper character animation, even with just a shot that's really focused on mechanics. So this is really gearing you up for the harder full character rig shots that we're going to be doing soon. I hope you had a blast with this flower sack animation. Now click or tap the screen for more animation lessons, and I will see you in the next animation challenge. Happy animating.